Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Amanda Toy, the Vice President of Membership and Partnerships here at the Michigan Chamber, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this important conversation on cultivating a supportive and mentally healthy work environment. Mental health has become a central pillar of workplace wellness, and for good reason. Today's teams, particularly younger professionals, are navigating a fast changing world, often with unique pressures and expectations. As leaders, our role is to not only guide our teams toward success, but also to create an environment where they can thrive as a whole, resilient individual. And honestly, that is no simple task. I am eager to dive into this journey with you today to empower each of you, including me, with tools to strengthen your toolbox. But first, just a few notes to set you up for success today. First, we would love for you to stay engaged throughout our session. Some of the most productive learning opportunities through Michigan Athena thus far are when our chat box just continues to receive entries from attendees like you with questions and comments and feedback and reflections as you go. So when you're listening to our esteemed panel today, please engage in the chat box. Your voice matters, and we want you to be part of this conversation. Also, we encourage you to stick through to the end. I don't think that you're going to want to leave. However, we will be doing a drawing for all the attendees who stay with us through the end for Ultimate Learning, and there will be a winner that receives a swag pack. It is a crossbody with a whole bunch of fun goodies in it and a Michigan Athena tumbler. So please stick around, and good luck to you on that drawing. Also, we do want to thank our amazing sponsors. I got to speak with them in the green room, a few of them today, and a continued gratitude for all of their support. First, Consumers Energy, a presenting sponsor, Lake Trust, a presenting sponsor today, and for all of the Athena series. Also, Amerisure, our gold sponsor. And we have two silver sponsors for the series. It's Waste Management and Hastings Insurance. And finally, West Shore Bank, our bronze sponsor. Thank you so much for all of the support in all of these important conversations. Attendees, we encourage you to check out all of these wonderful sponsors' businesses and their wonderful missions. And lastly, we've received a few questions recently about the new Michigan Athena membership. So in short, Michigan Athena is a community where ambitious women grow, connect, and lead together. Members gain access to empowering workshops, meaningful networking, and a supportive circle of women to come alongside. If you're ready to invest in yourself and your team, surround yourself with leaders who lift one another up, we definitely encourage you to make Michigan Athena your space. There is a QR code on the screen. Feel free to scan that for more information or check it out on the website. With that, let's get started. I'm excited to turn the program over to Jordan Walker. Jordan is the Manager of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with Consumers Energy. Jordan?
Good morning. I'm Jordan Walker with Consumers Energy, and Consumers has been a long-standing partner with Michigan Athena, and we're thrilled to sponsor today's important conversation on leading with empathy. Thank you all for joining as we focus on this important topic. The ability to lead in this way really starts with you, starts with your strong mental health practice and building and learning emotional intelligence. And done well, this style allows you to better understand your teams, to effectively coach and empower and remove those barriers, creating an environment that's psychologically safe to try new things and to make mistakes, all necessary for growth. And so I look forward to the valuable insights that you'll gain from the conversation today, that I'll gain from the conversation today. And thank you again for engaging in investing in yourself. So with that, I am going to introduce our next sponsor from Lake Trust, Teresa Dubio, the Executive Vice President and Chief Experience Officer with Lake Trust Credit Union.
Thank you, Jordan. Lake Trust Credit Union is proud to be co-presenting sponsor for the series that empowers women and provides great topics for us to explore and grow. Throughout this series, the topics, presenters, and panelists have shared inspirational nuggets that apply both in our career and personal life. We are proud of our partnership with Michigan Athena and the Michigan Chamber and the ongoing impact that we can make together. I want to thank everyone for joining today's session on leading with empathy, mental health in the workplace. I have the honor to introduce our moderator for today's session, Carrie Rathborn Hawks, President of Rathborn Public Relations. Carrie is a passionate, dynamic communications professional, a change agent, public speaker with more than 3 decades of experience. She is an expert at diving into clients' industries, understanding their goals, and guiding them strategically to success. As a speaker and trainer, Carrie delivers on point, motivating, and impactful presentations. Carrie is also an Athena International Certified Facilitator and a 2018 Athena International Leadership Award winner. She's an accredited member of the Public Relations Society of America and was chosen by her peers in 2012 as the Pace Maker of the Year from PRSA Central Michigan's chapter. Creating and managing strategic public relations programs for her clients, which have ranged from performing arts to cultural institutions, municipalities to economic development, as well as many nonprofit and healthcare businesses. Along with her BA in communication from Michigan State University, Carrie's accreditation is one of the highest designations as a public relations practitioner that you can earn in that space. Carrie is involved in many community impact organizations, definitely making a difference throughout our communities. Welcome, Carrie. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and I really appreciate that wonderful introduction, Teresa. Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. I've been in PR for 33 years and on my own for 23. And I can honestly say it is the best move I've made, and I'm just in a very happy spot. And my work with Athena is really a good passion project for me along with that. And so when you receive the e-newsletters from Athena, or if you're a Michigan Chamber member and you may get them as well from them, and you see the little piece about if you're looking to expand your leadership development by taking one of the Being Athena women's leadership cohorts, that's me. I'm the facilitator for those. The information is sent to me and then I respond to you. So I do have another cohort that is starting in January, and I think they're going to share the link to that so you can get more information. But if you are looking to, move forward, whatever your leadership goals are for 2026, if you're not sure what they are, if you're looking to step up your game, you want to bring more to your organization, you're looking for more exploration on the soft side of leadership skills that women are so good at, and learning more about Athena, then this cohort is probably for you, and I would love to talk to you more about it. But now on to the most important part of today, and that's getting us into this great discussion. In order to do that, we have three amazing panelists, and I am very honored to be able to introduce them all to you. Julia Isaacs is with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Blue Care Network, and she serves there as the Director of Behavioral Health Strategy and Planning. And in that role, she is responsible for designing and implementing the behavioral health strategy, which aims to ensure all members have access to their best-in-class whole person care for mental health and substance abuse disorders. More than 20 years of experience in doing this in behavioral health and clinical settings, administrative and policy work. She has her undergraduate degree from Fordham University, her master's degree in social work from the University of Michigan, and her MBA from the George Washington University. And I'd also like to welcome Mandis McAllister, Talent Development Manager for Warner Norcross and Judd. Please excuse me. In that role, she is responsible for training, mentorship, and evaluation that leads to the firm's talent systems, ensures that the firm's talent systems support equitable growth across opportunities and long-term success. She also serves as the chair of Warner's DEI Action Community, providing strategic direction for internal and external partnerships around diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. One of the many superstar women here among us today in the audience and our panels and our sponsors. She has been recognized as a 2023 Cranes Grand Rapids 40 Under 40 honoree and a 2024 finalist in the law category for Cranes Grand Rapids Newsmaker of the Year. She's also provided back to her community with board service on the Comprehensive Therapy Center for Arbor Circle and the National Black MBA Association Greater Michigan chapter. The Ohio State University bestowed upon her the Bachelor of Science in Political Science after, I'm sure it was a lot of great hard work and dedication. And then we also have Camille Bryant. She is the Chief People Officer and Cultural Officer for Walker Miller Energy Services, where she drives people strategy and organizational culture to advance equity and innovation in the clean energy industry. She's also a leadership coach and a culture architect. She has held senior HR leadership roles at the General Electric Company, including being an executive HR business partner for GE's global digital hubs. And this means that she shaped global strategies, cultivated inclusive cultures, and championed learning and development across 4 technology centers, 5,000 employees worldwide. She's deeply committed to coaching leaders and individuals to achieve optimization in every area of their lives, helping them align their values with their goals and design lives that foster clarity, confidence, and sustainable success. She is a proud Flint, Michigan native, and there she works on the board of the Workforce Opportunity Solutions, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing opportunities for underrepresented and veteran talent. She holds a bachelor's in political theory and constitutional democracy and a master's in labor relations and human resources from Michigan State University. Go Green.
All right.
Now I'm excited that they all are here with you and to welcome them again. And we're going to go ahead and get this party started. And I'm going to start, Julia, with you. Mental health in the workplace is being talked about more now than ever. So from your perspective, what does leading with empathy really mean in today's professional environment?
Thanks, Carrie. I'm really excited to be here. And I said, once we kind of rolled into the pandemic that we've never been as popular in behavioral health as we became. I think it was a good and a bad thing, right? But definitely shown a lot more light on the subject. So leading with empathy in the workforce. So I want to make sure that everybody is super duper clear on what empathy is versus sympathy really quick. So understanding that sympathy is feeling bad for someone, and empathy is really walking with them through whatever they're going through. And empathy is a foundational component of every relationship, both personal and professional. And as we look to improve our culture, get people to do more, build and grow as a company, having empathy for other people is the only way that you're in the end going to get things done. If people don't respect you as a leader, if they don't feel like you're listening to them and walking with them and through the things that they're going through, they're not going to follow you, and you're not going to have outcomes like you would if you were showing more empathy.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you delineating the difference between sympathy and empathy, because I think that can be an unknown or an unsure line there for people. Do the other panelists have thoughts on this as well?
Yeah, I'll share. And Julia, I love how you brought in the idea of it being very important to relationships. So I too believe that empathy is critical to uh, relational currency, which is known as the invisible capital that powers collaboration and influences, all of the business that we do. So relational currency is earned through trust and credibility. And empathy is the key to managing it effectively because without understanding and valuing others, relationships become transactions instead of partnerships. So in leadership, no matter what your style, it requires that we're partnering with our team to achieve success. Leading with empathy means that we're truly caring for and taking care of our teams. We have a core value called inclusive stewardship, and very simply, HR owns it, and it's let's make sure we're taking care of the people. So when work isn't getting done the way we want it to get done, we as leaders, we get curious to discover why. Is it a performance issue related to a skills or experience deficit, or is there something else going on with the person that is preventing the best known version of themselves showing up?
The relational currency, being curious,
Yeah.
really living these values within your organization as well. Thank you. Anything, Mandis, you want to jump in
No,
on?
they nailed it. I love the fact. I love each element that both Camille and Julia brought into it. And just to double down, I really think that empathy is how we gather information about our teams before we're making those decisions. I think a lot of times we think of empathy because it is a soft skill. We think of it as an emotion rather than a concrete leadership skill. And I think both of these ladies, they nailed it.
Great, great. So as women leaders, what unique strengths or challenges do we bring to leading with empathy and supporting mental health at work? Camille, do you want to go on this one?
Sure. So I believe that we as women bring strong signal detection and nurturing orientation. I think many of us as women leaders today bring this dual capability that I believe is incredibly valuable in our workplace. Corn Ferry shared some data that leaders who score higher on emotional and social intelligence are more likely to create climates where team members want to stay longer. They build trust and engagement, and they navigate conflict and change more effectively. So a leader who can detect subtle shifts in team morale and respond with care, that's not just being nice. That leader is retaining talent, they're strengthening performance, and they're reducing preventable stress. This is the operational value of signal detection and nurturing. And so if folks are wondering, hey, what are those? Just really quickly, signal detection is ability to read the room, picking up on shifts in energy, unspoken concerns, early signs of stress and disengagement before they become a performance issue. And the nurturing strength complements this. Uh, this is the instinct to respond, not by rescuing, but by creating conditions where your team members feel heard, they feel seen, supported, grounded, safe, and positioned to perform well. So when in a world where burnout is high, this combination allows us as women to intervene early with clarity, support, and course correction. So we're leading with humanity, and then at the same time still driving results. And I'll end with, to be fair, I do think these strengths are not, I don't think they're exclusive to women. However, data shows that women often bring these strengths more consistently, and the opportunity is for all leaders to develop them through self-awareness and intentional practice.
Mhm.
Thank you. And that aligns really with the Athena International, the principles, the 8 principles of enlightened leadership. And as we go through those, and we get to talking about acting courageously and advocating fiercely, we get into the whole thing about women carrying these traits and how important it is to start picking up on those things in the the workplace early, because they can have ripple effects, right? And so when you are paying attention to that and getting it early, you can start to kind of nip in the bud some of the things that could really take people in a not so good direction. So, Mandis,
Carrie, I just wanted to add on to that
yeah,
very thorough or answer that Camille gave. I feel like those strengths that women naturally carry into the workplace are also the challenges that we carry into the workplace because we are naturally picking up on shifts in the environment, and we do bring that nurturing element into our leadership that it almost becomes emotional labor that we're doing in the workplace. In addition to, we know some of the other heavier administrative labor that women kind of naturally take on. So I think that one of the challenges in our work as leaders is how do we embrace that superpower and lead with empathy, but without absorbing everyone else's stress and without taking on more of the burden of that work than maybe some of our other leaders in the workplace.
Absolutely. Actually, when you're focusing so much to support your team, along those lines, Mandis, how do you make space to support yourself too?
That's a very good question, and one that transparently I'm navigating as a newer leader in my role. I think that what has been beneficial for me is to create space for myself where I don't have to be on. If I'm leading my team and creating space for them, I also have to make sure that I am navigating or being in rooms where I don't have to be the leader, where I can learn from other people, where other folks are supporting me, and where I don't necessarily have to be on. And also creating boundaries. One of the things that I really navigated when I stepped into this role is feeling like I had to be available all the time and realizing that sometimes, calendaring a block of time on my calendar where no one can put anything on there because I'm focused on working, or really I'm headed out of the office to go to my kids' holiday party. Calendaring those boundaries has been super helpful, and then creating space, which is something that my mentor at the beginning of every year, she asks me, when are your vacations? What is your plan for self-care? Not just what's the plan? And she wants it written down. So those are some of the ways that I have learned to, create space for myself and to take care of my own mental health as a leader.
Yeah, I love that. I've learned to integrate a midday break just to reground myself, especially in roles where you're problem solving all day long. To just take a moment and just recenter and remind yourself of the truth of what's happening and that we're equipped with all that we need to win and solve the issues of the day. Carrie, just to build on that, I think two things for me, I think also related to empathy, are self-awareness and self-leadership that I find critical. So I grew up and was raised in a fairly, high stress environment. So I am aware of when I can be triggered. So self-awareness on those points, on those areas is important for me. To stay ahead of this, I start my daily routine. It's pretty elaborate. So I get about an hour to 2 hours of devotion time and prayer. Again, just reminders of what the truth is about the day and why I'm here, and how I want to share gratitude meditations. When you're problem solving all the time, it's important because we can see problems in a lot of things and we're always in solutioning mode. So it's important to remember and be grateful for the things that are and who we are. Journaling and working out, right? Burning the extra energy. So that each day it grounds me in both gratitude and in being and sharing my gifts with all that I encounter.
I love this so much as a mental health clinician here. I'm so excited that you're talking about this. It's just, kind of music to my ears. And even as I've been in mental health for a long time, and I have to remind myself, because there are days when, I have been really empathetic and I have taken a lot on, and I have, maybe even mentored others in empathy, because even across women, right, some of us are better or worse at it. And kind of, walking somebody through how you would think about being empathetic with your peers or with your subordinates or with anybody that you come across. There are days when I think to Camille's point, I have to stop and even think, like, how does my body feel, right?
Mhm.
Like, I have tension here, I have a headache, and then I think, have I been walking around like this all day in pain? and sometimes it was, so I think that's really critical as you work on, your connection with others, that you also have that connection with yourself.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Thank you all for sharing that opportunity to give some of that perspective to other people, that it can be a very vulnerable thing for some people to talk about. So thank you all for that. So what are some practical ways that leaders can normalize conversations around mental health without overstepping personal boundaries? I'll let whomever would like to take this jump in.
I can go
Okay.
if you'd like. Oh, sorry, Camille, do you want me to go?
You go ahead, Julia.
Okay. So I do get asked this question a lot. I know my colleagues here on this, my esteemed colleagues on this panel probably have from an HR perspective, right? Because they probably get a lot of questions on this. But I also get a lot of questions of, hey, I think something's going on with this individual. How do I approach it? And I think just to kind of back up, it does start with how we talk about health and mental health more broadly, right? So kind of building that foundational culture where it is okay to talk about, I'm really having a stressful day. I'm really overwhelmed right now. Or being able to actually put those things in words. They actually wrote a blog about, how interesting it is really that we have 1 million words for physical pain. 1 million, right? When a doctor says, I have some pain, you can say, is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it throbbing? Is it this? You have all these words for physical pain that you do not have in the mental health space, right? It's just kind of, are you good? Are you bad? So I think one way that you can, kind of communicate in the beginning is to start, using more words like that. So start building those conversations within your team. I think it is always a balancing point, right? You're not going to say, hey, you look depressed, right? Hey, you don't seem, but I think having a conversation with around, you don't really seem like yourself lately. Is everything okay? As a person who knows you and cares about you, I'm just concerned. So expressing genuine concern, and I think that people can, really respond to that, especially if they feel it from an empathy standpoint, and not from a my boss is questioning me and thinks something's wrong and I'm going to get in trouble somehow, right? Maybe they think I'm not doing my work. So being able to address, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and I'm concerned about you, an authentic concern for another person. Um, I also always tell people it's really critical that you understand what resources are available to you throughout your organization. If you understand your benefits, do you have EAP? Do they have other resources that they could use that you could remind them of? Because I will tell you, you don't need them until you need them, right? And so making sure that people have and know what resources are available to them, and having an honest, question um, about that you don't think somebody is okay, because that is an okay thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But interested what my colleagues have are thinking over from the HR perspective.
Yeah. I'll add, I agree with you, Julia. It's really not about getting deep and, asking people to share deeply about their personal details, but it means making conversations about capacity, stress, support routine, those conversations, normalizing them, and so that they're expected and that they're safe. So what are some ways in which we can do that? So I do want to share some questions that we as leaders could ask. So if you want to ask, here's some questions that I think are boundary safe and can facilitate high trust. So around capacity and workload, how is your current workload feeling right now? What's taking the most energy for you this week? Are the priorities we've set feeling realistic? Very simply, you can ask, hey, how are things? Is everything okay overall? Work? Hey, is everything okay at home? People can choose to opt in and respond or not. Some more support related questions. What support would make this period more manageable for you? Is there anything getting in the way of you doing your best work right now? I love that question.
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing I could remove to help or clarify to help you focus? So I had a team member whose spouse was experiencing a significant health challenge. And so, they needed to continue to work. But I knew not not necessarily carrying the same load. And so, understanding what they could handle, couldn't handle, that question became very important. Lastly, for those of us who are in senior leader or exec roles, boundary setting is important. So you can say something explicit like, hey, you don't need to share anything personal. My role is to understand how work is affecting you and what support you need from the organization. This reinforces psychological safety, professional boundaries, and also ethical leadership. Yeah, I just think overall, normalizing the conversations, it doesn't mean crossing boundaries. For some folks, for some of us, it's very uncomfortable. And we may talk about this later because we may not necessarily be fully empathetic to ourselves. So it can feel like we're showing up inauthentic if we're not, showing ourselves the same level of grace. But it does mean acknowledging reality. When 77% of our workforce is saying they're stressed out, it's the operating environment. So how do we acknowledge the reality? When stress is widespread, we as leaders have the responsibility to ask better questions about capacity, clarity, and support our team before the problems escalate.
Can I just add one thing, Camille? I think that was wonderful. I think one other, thing that leaders can do, and especially senior leaders, is modeling that sometimes you're better or worse mentally, right? Sometimes are more or less stressed out. And that doesn't mean burdening your team or your colleagues with saying, kind of dumping on them, but we're all some level of good or bad in that day, right? And so there are days when you are having a bad day, right? And you are really, listen, I have a lot of things going on right now. I'm really stressed out, so I might not be my best self, and not pretending like everything is okay all the time. I mean, you don't want to be like that all the time, but I think having a little bit of that modeling and showing that sometimes things are stressful and things are hard because life is hard, can be really helpful for teams.
Fully agree, Julie.
I love that.
So yeah, so you've covered a lot there in a great way about really even demonstrating when you have to make leadership decisions, right, around balancing productivity, performance, and employee well-being, and how you can do that with your own transparency, sharing your own experiences and vulnerabilities. Not that you have to do it all the time, but letting them know that, hey, I'm human too, and this is who I am. But building that trust to support that mentally healthy workplace. And so when you are going through that as a leader, even as some of the people here today might not feel they're in a leadership position. I would argue that everyone is a leader in one way or another. But how can you recognize some of the early warning signs of burnout or stress among employees, especially now that we have so much more of a hybrid or remote work environment?
Yeah.
So I don't know, Mandis, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, first you have to be paying attention to your team to notice that they're actually changing, and I feel like that's, foundational for us as leaders. But I mean, changes in engagement. Are they joining the Zoom meeting now, but they turn their camera off? Are they not super active in the chat? Changes in communication and responsiveness. We see that a lot with the associates that we work with. It's like, oh, so and so is taking a week to turn around a project when it would have only taken them a couple of days. Increased mistakes with folks who are high performers, missing small things. Uh, and even on the other side of that is working a bunch of hours when they wouldn't normally have. Like, why are you working consistently, 60 hours a week? Why is it that you're not able to get your work done in the 40? And I've noticed that you've been doing that for, weeks on end. How is that impacting you? So I think it's just, being observant and paying attention to your team and noticing when those subtle shift in behaviors or engagement or productivity happen.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think I think with the numbers that we're seeing in terms of people who are reporting high stress in work, right? 77% in the past month, 52% of employees or team members reporting feeling burned out by a NAMI workplace poll in the past year. when burnout is this prevalent, it's not a question of do we have it, it's are we detecting it early and responding consistently. And Mandis, I think you just mentioned a lot of the ways in which you can recognize the signs. And I think you can do this in a hybrid and remote environment. As many of us, we're still about 90% hybrid and remote at Walker Miller. But I just want to throw out there, I think asking team members to be on camera. Some of our team isn't, they aren't on camera a lot. Yes, you can detect signs and differences in conversation, tone of voice, silence, presence, all of the things that Mandis mentioned. But seeing someone enhances communication, and it's, the ability to observe and sense one's energy. So we just implemented a core work hours policy, which we've incorporated being on camera during core work hours, right? So when you're joining a meeting, we're asking people, and we're not trying to be controlling. I hope it doesn't sound intrusive, and I know people might have camera burnout, but if we were still coming into the office, we'd have to get clothes on, do our hair, and show up. And so we're just asking people to show up for each other in a consistent way so we can be there for one another, even if you don't think you need it. Some people don't think they need the support in the community, but we all benefit from it, and we're accountable to showing up well. And I think it'll help with execution too.
Absolutely. I agree with the whole showing up, and which even are things as simple as turning on that camera to know that there's a face behind there, and you get the inflection, you get the where they're at, and you can pick up on nonverbal cues as well. So I really appreciate you bringing in that point as well. So when you are starting to see these early signs, what is an actionable step that can be taken by, whether it's you as a leader, anything that you have done that you recommend, or even to recommend to all of the people who are here today joining us, what could they take even tomorrow to foster a more empathic and mentally healthy workplace? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Carrie. So is your question an actionable step that leaders in this room can take to foster more empathy and a
Yeah,
mental
so
healthy
if you
workplace?
were to, whether an example of you've all, I think, probably shared some examples, but what's some advice or situations and how to respond to that you could share with the people here today they can take with them that are actionable steps when they recognize what's going on?
Yeah. So I'll throw out there. I shared several questions earlier, which I'm happy to share with somebody in this group. To share with the broader folks who are on the call and the participants. So I think leaning in and having the conversation, right? It's when you see something, say something, right? Do the check-ins. And if the person's not opening up to you, we have a corporate care coach that, if they're not opening up to someone on my team, which we do all we can to create a safe, open relationship with our team. But the corporate care coach outside of HR will encourage them to reach out to check in on the person. So I think the leaning in with the conversation and connecting folks with EAP, whatever those other resources are, if they're not comfortable with sharing with someone within your organization. So that's addressing others. I think an actionable step for leaders on this particular call in this virtual room, something that we can do to foster a more empathetic and mentally health workplace, I would say practicing self-leadership. I think because the key component of self-leadership is self-awareness. So self-leadership is the practice of intentionally influencing our own thinking, feeling, and actions towards our objectives. I think all of us would agree as leaders, as people who are just trying to fulfill our purpose, our calling, do the best work we can do to achieve our goals. All of our objectives are to win and to be well. And we want our teams and those who we encounter to also win at whatever they're trying to accomplish and be well. So I encourage everyone to work on leading, loving, and loving yourself well. And from that will naturally flow empathy, right? As we show ourselves grace, we're more sensitive to the grace that others may need, the empathy that others may need. I think it'll be contagious. I've found it to be contagious. Our CEO, it's contagious. I think it's impacted how I show up, and we're explicitly talking about it. And so you'll see your leaders start to model it and your team members will as well.
I would just add, I love that, Camille. Those are, I think, back to self-reflection is really wonderful. I think if I could say one thing that we could do, that leaders could do to kind of expand their capacity to be more empathetic in the workplace, it would be to really practice open-ended questions and active listening. So making sure that we don't have these. A lot of times when we're having an uncomfortable conversation, we will say something because we don't really want to deal with the question, like, "You're okay, aren't you, Camille?" Like, Manus, you're okay, right? And what is somebody going to say? They're going to say, "Yeah, I'm fine." So having those open-ended questions and actually waiting for the response, even if the response is not great, right? Even if that person is not, maybe they really don't like the project they're working on now, or they're really disengaged because of some reason. But hearing them, it might not be something as a leader you can change because guess what? We got to get this project done. But hearing them out and understanding those concerns will really demonstrate that you're kind of listening to them, walking with them in this journey if it's hard for them.
Yeah, I love that, Julia, because sometimes it's just the releasing some of that negative tension and that built up in your energy and frustration that people have, just to your point, feeling heard and releasing some of that stressful tension they're carrying about it can make
Yep.
a world of difference. Yeah.
One thing that I'll say, and I think that this might depend on the size of your team, but going through and auditing the norms that are currently in place for your team and asking them openly and honestly, are there any ways that we currently function as a team that are adding stress to your day? One of the things that I've had conversations with some associates about is their interaction with partners, and they've said that they really appreciate when they're working with a partner if the partner is emailing them after hours, and there's really no such thing as after hours for lawyers, but late in the night, that the partner will just say, "Hey, this is not urgent. Feel free to look at this in the morning." And just that simple note lets them know that, hey, just because this partner is working at 10 o'clock does not mean that they expect for you to answer at 10 o'clock. Is it that you're experiencing, as Camille noted earlier, your team is experiencing Zoom burnout? Oh my gosh, I have back-to-back Zoom meetings every single day, and I don't have any time to get my work done, and that's adding stress to my day. Maybe you institute Tuesdays as no Zoom meeting days. Like, hey, if we're in the office, come by and see me. But we're not putting Zoom meetings on the calendars for Tuesday so that everyone can take a break from screens and they can get their work done. So do an audit with your team and figure out what are some simple ways that can de-stress the day or the week or whatever that can, kind of circumvent that burnout from even beginning in the first place.
I appreciate you saying that, Mandis, because I'm one of those people that I sometimes work late at night. And people have said to me, please don't send things at night or please don't text late at night. And I'll say, well, I don't necessarily expect you to answer. But I am one who feels like, I should respond to them. And I'm trying to get better at that too. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. Because those of us that are like uber responsible and uber, we feel like we got to do it now. Trying to
Mhm.
set that boundary is difficult and hold that boundary is really difficult.
And
So
to that point, I feel like even maybe having some conversations and level setting about what is responsiveness.
yes,
You don't have to respond to this email in 10 minutes. Like
right.
a normal amount of time to respond to an email is 24 hours or 10 or whatever your industry kind of says is the norm. But I feel like even having those conversations can be helpful to your team.
So our closing question for all of you, if you could give yourself, your younger self, excuse me, to be really specific, your younger self, one piece of advice about empathy and mental health, what would it be?
Mm. I can
I,
go first. Oh, sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
I would say that I would say to my younger self that rest is not, it's not a reward, it's a requirement.
Mm.
and that you can be a go-getter and you can be a high performer and you can operate in excellence and you still need to sit down somewhere. And just taking a moment or several or a day or a week and replenishing yourself is something that is a requirement for your mental and physical health. And making sure that you're doing that is not something that you don't have to earn that. Like it's your right as a woman. So that's one piece of advice that I would give to my younger self. And I'm still telling my somewhat older self day to day.
Yeah.
I would tell, oh, sorry, Camille, you
No,
gonna
go
go?
ahead, Julia. Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right, sorry. I would tell myself that I've always been a pretty empathetic person, but I would tell my younger self that just because you heard someone and listened to them, and it doesn't mean that you have to solve all their problems.
Mm.
So I think sometimes when we hear something, and especially as leaders, and even in a personal way, we want to fix it for that person. And that's not always what they need. Sometimes they just need to be heard, and you just need to sit there. That is empathy. They need you to sit there with them with it. And I think kind of sitting there is hard for me. Has always been hard. I want to go fix it for everybody, but I think I would tell myself to sit a little bit more.
Yeah, that's good.
Love that. So I would tell myself to do the inner work and healing early. Accept love, which for me is God, into my life now for overall life optimization and to know your triggers. I saw Sharon W. put that in. So, yes, I have that here. Know your triggers and your limits because your self-leadership sets the emotional temperature for everyone around you. As leaders, we there, if anybody who's read Daniel Goleman's Primal Leadership, we carry emotional contagion for the good or the bad, right? So we are influencing the tone and the tenor of the room, the environment, everywhere we go. So as we lead ourselves to be healthy and safe, we will create that space for everybody we encounter. And I think that leads to optimized performance.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I loved that.
Excellent. You've all been just fabulous. Thank you very much for this. We do have some questions. The first one is, if you are trying to have a mental health conversation with a staff member who is a minor or a student employee, what is the best way to go about that?
I'm going to defer to my HR counterparts on that one.
So, in all fairness, I don't work with minors. So they're all adults. So in all fairness, I won't be able to address that part of it. But if there are a more junior, less experienced team member, I'm pretty much engaging them the same way. How are things? How can I support you? I lean in because I'm human, and I think that I typically have found that the things that I experience and I'm thinking, people usually say the same thing. So, or are feeling and thinking the same thing. So, hey, how are things here at home? You seem, you're showing up a bit differently lately. I've just want to check in and make sure everything's okay, and then I just create space for them to share. And if we're not tense, I think sometimes, it's what's the energy that we're bringing to the conversation? Is it nervous energy or whatnot? So grounding ourselves to be safe and to feel comfortable having that conversation, I think will help. But you leaning in, even if you aren't completely comfortable, I think still opens the door for them to share and you to connect them with the resources. So if they are younger, you may not be the best person because they may have a parent who's overseeing or responsible for them. So find out what resources are good and are reasonable for them, whether it's a counselor, um, asking permission to share it with their parents so that they know that you're a safe space, right? So I think that's important to understand what they want you to do with the information is something else I think would be important.
So one of the other things that has come up a bit in the chat and kind of sort of indirectly in question is neurodiversity and people that are neurodiverse and taking that into account. What are your thoughts on that? And I feel like, as we learn more about what that term really means, we probably all have a little bit of neurodiversity. So how do you factor that in? Can any of you give us an example of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Mavis.
Yeah, I work in a very high stress environment that with lawyers who literally are accounting for every 6 minutes of their day. And I have associates who are neurodiverse, and they're like, that this is how can I make this work for me? And I think that in partnership with HR, because there are things there are laws that get triggered when someone is um, disclosing a disability with accommodations and things like that. But my in partnership with HR has been always about partnering with that individual to understand what their needs are. What are the methods that you're using right now? Are they working for you? Are they not? What are ways that we can support you? Are you comfortable talking with your assigning attorneys about your diagnoses, about the ways that you work that are most beneficial to the way that your mind works. So that's what it looks like when I'm working with an associate. When I'm working with myself, who is self-diagnosed with ADHD in my late 30s, it looks very much the same. I'm thinking about like Camille said, what are my triggers? What are the things that are making it really hard for me to settle or to focus? Do I need to up my medication? Do I need to work later in the day? And so I think it's just being open and flexible and making space for people to advocate for themselves and then working with them to create a plan for how best for them to work. I think that it's creating a space in the workplace for people to show up as they are is so powerful. And I know that there's things to consider like productivity and, in our environment, meeting your hours and things like that. But I really do believe that it's important for us and also legal for us to make accommodations for
Yeah.
people in their neurodiversity for sure.
Mandis, I think you covered a lot in that. So most of which is from the HR perspective. I just want to talk about from the human side of things. So my
Hmm.
experience was I've worked with neurodivergent people on our executive team. And based on how people are showing up, we're observing, so we're signal detectors and we're thinking we're detecting a signal that's signaling something, but it may not be signaling that because they're neurodivergent and they're processing in a whole different way. So I think the key is recognizing signs. And if you see a sign, don't assume you know what the sign is. Don't judge it. Get curious. Like, hey, note it, how did you feel about, XYZ comment or what was shared during this meeting? I noticed some folks in the room looked frustrated, right? If you're assuming something, ask. Don't put it on them, put it on somebody else, right? Well, what were you thinking? What was going through your head, right? And just be curious because we're not diagnosing, we're just creating space for people to share so that we can be part of a solution.
Another question. This person has been an advocate for neurodiversity. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Um, one up from that. I find these conversations to be more difficult having to have with a male boss versus a female boss. What are some tips for making this an easier approach?
Hmm.
If you're advocating for yourself, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
That's a good one. That's a good one because, everybody's unique. And so I think I've been in a situation where I had a male boss who I didn't necessarily think fully understood everything. And so I was authentic to myself and I provided the context that I thought would be helpful. So in this particular situation, I found where there were some commonalities. He had actually like 9 daughters. Wasn't the most sensitive person, actually pretty insensitive. You're in a room and they kind of repeat what you just said and they get credit for so it was tough, right? So I think your question is right on. Um, I think the key is the tip I would give you is be authentic to yourself, share what's going on, ask for what you need, because at the end of the day, people are still human.
Mhm.
Somebody in their lives, if not themselves, have been burned out, stressed out. And as I'm just talking and processing this through, I would ask that it would probably be good, and I've done this. What have you done? How have you handled um, periods of time in your life when you felt burned out?
Mm.
Right? Just to open them up to share when they felt it so that they can remember and then apply some of that empathy to your situation. Even if they didn't take care of themselves, they probably wish somebody would have noticed and cared. And then
Yeah.
if that's insufficient, then get some help from
Yeah.
HR so they can get some
Yeah,
help.
just to call HR. I'll just add that, sometimes people are not aware. I mean, I'm not giving passes, right? Especially for leaders necessarily, like we all need to be working on this, but there's been instances even historically in my career where I've had to just say, when you did this, it made me feel like this. It was an appropriate work conversation to have, but one time I had a male colleague of mine who I was going to a meeting. It was as a big, important, lots of important people there. And he told me, it's okay if you sit at the table. I kind of looked back and I said, well, where else would I sit? I'm in this meeting. And he didn't understand why that was offensive, right? That everybody else is going to sit in the meeting and I was a representative in this meeting and I was going to sit in the corner. So I had to actually explain it. And so I think sometimes, even though we don't want to have to, you do have to explain when you did this, this was, disrespectful, or this was, not appropriate, or I didn't feel the empathy in that moment.
Absolutely. Well, we are at time, and I want to thank all of you. You brought so much to this, and there have been some really amazing and supportive and reflective comments in the chat. I want to thank all of you who are here participating for doing that as well. Uh, Everyone's time is valuable, and I think this was time well spent today. So I just want to really thank you all again for being here. And so right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back over to Amanda Toy. And she, of course, is the VP of Membership and Partnerships for the Michigan Chamber, and she's going to offer us some closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Carrie, Mandis, Camille, and Julia, for contributing your voices, your insights, and your energy to today's conversation. I feel empowered yet at peace, and I hope that our attendees feel some similar wonderful mission-oriented thoughts as well. Together, we explored what it means to cultivate a supportive, mentally healthy work environment, tools including self-awareness, authenticity, grace, the power of the pause, checking in with our team. Do they need clarity, capacity, or further support? And so much more. There was a lot, and I am very grateful that Michigan Athena will be sending a recording on demand to all of the participants today so we can continue to marinate on this and digest it. Participants, I hope that you're leaving with a renewed confidence and a deeper sense of connection to the Michigan Athena community. When we lead with awareness and empathy and intentionality, we do open the door to our teams to grow to their fullest potential. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Consumers Energy, our presenting sponsor, as well as Lake Trust, our presenting sponsor. Also to our gold sponsor, Amerisure, Waste Management and Hastings Insurance, our silver sponsors, and to West Shore Bank, our bronze sponsor. Thank you for making these conversations possible and for investing in the well-being and leadership to women across the state of Michigan. And attendees, thank you. Thank you for staying engaged today. Wonderful conversations and discussions and questions in the chat box. And today's winner will be announced for the swag pack in the post-event email. If you are selected, you'll also hear directly from our colleagues here at the Michigan Chamber to ensure you're able to get that. Also, Michigan Athena is your ongoing support. It's a place for ambitious women to continue to grow, connect, and lead together. So if you were inspired today, if you were able to take some practical tools with you, please stay along this leadership journey with us. More programming in person and virtually to come early in 2026. And lastly, we would like your feedback. There's a QR code here right on your screen. Feel free to take your phone and scan it to complete a brief survey. If you prefer to do it on your computer, in that post-event email, you'll also see a link to the same survey. Please provide some feedback as we continue to build out great curriculum and programming that's relevant to you and your leadership journey. So with that, thank you so much for attending. Stay well, stay connected, and continue leading with purpose.